Welcome back to the Red Dice Diaries. In this RPG Bugbears video, I'm going to be talking about people who fire off questions about RPGs on Google+, Facebook and other social networking tools without first even checking the basics of the game they're talking about. This video isn't a complaint about people asking questions in general. Asking questions is good and healthy. It's a great way to expand your knowledge and get involved in a community. Personally, I'm always happy to answer questions and try to help people. However, if someone is going to ask you a question about, say, D&D, to give a stereotypical example, you'd expect them to have at least vaguely read something about D&D. So, as I've just said in the disclaimer, my issue isn't with people who have genuine questions. I like asking questions myself and endeavour to help people out whenever they ask me something. But if a question is something that can be found with a 5-second search on Google, isn't it better and easier to do that than post it up on a social network and have to wait for other people to answer? To give a ludicrous example, if someone popped up on Facebook and asked, "What dice do you use for skill checks in D&D 5th edition?" you could find out by even the most cursory of glances at the D&D 5th edition books or searching online that it's a D20. Hell, the precursor system was even called the D20 system. Now, I'm not normally a fan of people who post terse or sarcastic answers in response to people asking genuine questions on social media. But when people ask about something they could very, very easily discover themselves in half the time and with very little effort, I can understand why people do this. So, what do I suggest? Well, I would advise that before asking a question about an RPG, or in fact, most subjects online in particular, have a little scout around on Google, or see if the RPG system you're talking about has a specialist forum, a wiki, or an SRD, a system reference document that you can check. Now, an SRD is normally just like a very cut down basic version of the rules, but it'll certainly serve to answer many simple queries. Or, hell, even just get hold of a copy of the rulebook if you've got it and have a look. Once you've looked in these places, if you still can't find an answer, that's when you should go to the RPG community online. Regular members of RPG communities tend to see a lot of the same basic level questions asked repeatedly, and for right or wrong, this can make certain people blasé about answering them for the 5th or 6th time. To people who see these very basic questions online, my advice would be that, however repetitive or infuriating you may find it, try not to be too caustic in response. The person may genuinely not know how to access materials to find out their answer, or they may have found it but not be sure if they've understood it correctly. We've all been in the situation where we've been learners or we've been starting out at one point or another. Now, granted, for many of us like myself or people older than me, we didn't have this great online resource back then, but just try and put yourself in the position of the person who really wants to get involved in this great hobby of ours, but is maybe struggling a bit and just needs a little bit of help to get them on the road and sort of see them over their first steps. So if you do find yourself getting ready to blast out a sarcastic post in response to some of these questions, I recommend a few alternatives. One, if you really can't think of any other way of doing it, or it's really annoying you, just don't respond at all. Just walk away, go about your business and don't worry about it. Someone else will probably answer it. Number 2, if there is an SRD, a system reference document for the game in question, refer the person to the system reference document, preferably providing them with a link to help them along the way. And I'm going to put a few links to a few systems that I like, 5th edition, Fate and Dungeon World, in the description of this video, so you can see what an SRD is and have a bit of a look around them if you're not sure. And 3, if all else fails, I recommend using the site Let Me Google That For You to direct them to an appropriate place on the net where they can do their own searches and hopefully discover their own answers to their questions. And I'll put a link to Let Me Google That For You in the description below. So there we are. In conclusion, if you're a person who's asking questions about RPGs online, you'll genuinely get a much better response if you've done at least a little bit of the legwork, or you've shown willing to actually look up some of this information yourself. And if you're a person who's more practiced or experienced at RPGs and you see one of these questions online, just try and rein in the urge to be sarcastic or caustic. Remember how difficult it may have been for you when you were in that sort of learning spot, taking your first faltering steps out into this great hobby of ours. And even if you don't want to spoon feed the answer, try and direct the person to somewhere where they can begin their own research or find out the information for themselves. So that's this RPG Bugbears video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll see you soon. Until then, take care, and whatever game you're playing, have fun. See you soon.